Throughout the last century, movie effects have been evolving drastically. From the camera tricks of the 20s to the computer-generated worlds of today's films, movie effects can oftentimes make or break a movie. With the increasing advances in CGI, filmmakers are tending to use computers over practical effects more and more. However, practical effects should not be made a thing of the past, as they bring a realness to movies that computers cannot yet replicate. Before diving in to see how movies are created today, let's look at how filmmakers used effects when movies were first becoming popularized. In the 1920s, computers didn't exist, let alone have a place in filmmaking. In order to create new worlds, filmmakers had to get creative with the way they used their cameras. For instance, in the classic film Metropolis, the effects expert Eugene Shafton was faced with making a huge populated city and a massive robot that the actors needed to interact with. At the time, there was no way to digitally impose these onto the screen. Using what is now known as the Shafton process, Shafton had miniature models of the city and robot built, and used a mirror to reflect the images of the models onto the camera. By scratching out a portion of the mirror, Shafton was able to make it seem as if the actors were actually interacting with huge set pieces. Tricks like the Shafton process were the only way that filmmakers could achieve grand storytelling. But with the birth of computers, things began to change in the film industry. Fast forward to the 80s, a time where practical effects were still king, but CGI was creeping into the spotlight. Jurassic Park is a great example of CGI and practical effects coming together in a great way. While most of the dinosaurs were detailed puppets or animatronics, several were created digitally. At the time, this process took much longer than it does today, so the filmmakers tried to keep the digital dinos to a minimum. The velociraptors are a great example of how both CGI and practical effects could be used in unison. Full raptor bodysuits were made and used as much as possible to make the dinosaurs feel as if they were alive. CGI was used in scenes that could not be done practically, allowing for a movie that could have never been made in the decades before. Now compare these to the dinosaurs in the 2015 film Jurassic World. The film relied much more on CGI, creating a digital park and digital dinos to inhabit it. This takes away from the realness that the original film had, and with it, a lot of the fear that was created from the dinosaurs. This is where CGI, despite all its benefits, can end up taking away from a movie. The 1982 film The Thing was a masterpiece of special effects. The effects master Rob Bottin and director John Carpenter created the unforgettable monster using wax, rubber, and jello. During the haunting scene in which the doctor loses both of his arms, a double amputee was given fake arms that were subsequently ripped off. Real dynamite was used during the explosions, nearly killing Kurt Russell in the process. And the monster was accidentally set on fire several times throughout the production through the use of a flamethrower. All of this together made the movie look and feel very real, and kept audiences in the movie, rather than pulling them out of it. This seems to be the opposite of the 2011 prequel to the film, also titled The Thing. Despite the director wanting a less digital look by using 33mm film, the creature itself ended up looking like a digital abomination. Unlike the original monster, which was actually on set with the actors, the 2011 Thing looked like something out of a video game. It is obvious to any viewer that the creature is not really interacting with the actors, and that gives it much less of a threatening feel. Audience could not find the updated Thing as believable as the original, because it moved and acted in a way that was not based in reality. In his dissertation titled Reality and Effect, A Cultural History of Visual Effects, Jae Young Ryu explains that even if the reality effect of the visual images is superb, the contents of the actions represented by CGI are fantastical. Thus, CGI's rational persuasiveness is weak compared to the credibility of practical effects. Comparing it to the original, the 2011 monster is almost laughable. So why would the filmmakers choose to rely so heavily on CGI? Unfortunately, all of these things take time, money, and effort. By the end of the 1982 movie, Rob Bottin had to be hospitalized from exhaustion from overworking on such a tedious project. It's no wonder why recent movies are leaning more towards CGI as the cheaper alternative. However, it is important to not write off CGI completely, as when it is done right, it can make a movie much more captivating. CGI might be seen and used as a cheap alternative by some filmmakers, but when used in specific ways, it can make a movie truly stand out. The important thing to realize is that CGI has come a long way, and when properly funded, it can exist in a movie without even being detected. If a filmmaker wants their movie to seem more lifelike, they have to keep the main focus as a practical effect and digitally enhance background elements. The film Mad Max Fury Road expertly uses practical effects while using CGI to clean up the background and add details. Watching the movie, viewers are shown breathtaking car stunts and action sequences, but don't get taken out of the movie through cheap effects. Instead, the editors change the world around the actors, making the movie seem much more intense and lifelike. Now compare Mad Max to The Matrix Reloaded, which did the opposite by making CGI the main focus in several scenes. The car chase sequence in this movie is the largest practical effect ever created, as an entire stretch of highway was built and it took over a year just to plan out. The car chase and all of the wrecks that occurred during it were all done practically, and bring a much more intense action to the film. However, CGI characters were added into the scene afterward, having them interact with the cars. This drastically takes away from the stunt, making the whole thing seem noticeably fake and almost silly. Nothing is more noticeable than bad CGI interacting with real objects, as it ages extremely poorly. In his book, Special Effects, New Histories, Theories, Contexts, Michael S. Duffy explains that what makes audiences perceive effects as outdated is their uneasy blend with their diegetic surroundings. This is why older practical effects look so cheesy, and why cheap CGI brings you out of a movie. If the effects don't match the environment around them, then they don't look real. Unless CGI is well funded, it cannot compare to having real practical effects on screen. As technology advances, computers may end up replacing physical props in the future, but as for now, filmmakers should stick to what is real.